Hello SEO professionals and welcome back again to this basic to advanced level SEO course. So today we are going to be talking about the technical SEO. Look, technical SEO is a very broad field and it will be really hard to cover every point in today's tutorial, but I will try to pick the most important technical SEO elements which are very important and easy to get started with. And this will also help you to start fixing the major technical problems of your website today. So the things we are going to cover includes the no index meta tag, the robots.txt file, the redirects, the canonicals, and the website speed. So I will go deeper down and will explain each of these technical SEO element one by one, and I will show you what you should do and what you should not, right? So before we get started, make sure you subscribe the channel and click on the bell icon so that you get notified instantly for every new tutorial on this channel. Alright guys, so before we discuss each of these points one by one, let's first discuss what is a technical SEO. Technical SEO is basically refers to the process of tweaking and optimizing the technical aspects of your website. Look, in other words, the technical SEO is just like the engine of your car. No matter if you have the world's best car, but if there are problems within its engine, so it will be useless for you. In the same way, if you have the best website in the world and you have the best content in the world, but if your website is not indexable and the search engines are not able to crawl your important pages, so your website is useless for you. So that's why the technical SEO is a very important point when we talk about the SEO in general. So let's get started with the point number one, and for this I will take you to my screen so that I can show you what are these elements and what you can do and how you can improve these things if you sometimes face the no indexing problems. Alright guys, so now let's get started with the point number one, which is a no index meta tag. So now let's see first what Google says about the no index meta tag and how Google describes the no index meta tag. So Google says you can prevent a page or other resource from being appearing in Google search by including a no index meta tag or header in the HTTP response when Googlebot next crawls that page and sees the tag or header. Google will drop that page entirely from Google search results, regardless of whether other sites link to it. Now, it's clear that using a no-index meta tag, you can actually block, the bots of the Google, Bing, or Yahoo search engines to crawl or index your web page. So now let's discuss how you can implement a no-index meta tag on your website, or how you can remove a no index meta tag if they already exist on any kind of web pages on your website. Because sometimes when you face the indexing issues in the Google Search Consoles, so this is the first thing that you need to check and to see if a page that is not being indexed or crawled by Google, if that page uses the no index page or not. So there are basically two kind of the meta tags. Basically both are the same. The only difference between that is that the first no index meta tag uses the robots and the second one uses only the Google bots. Now the difference is very clear. If you want to block only the Google bots, then you need to use this kind of no index meta tag. And if you want to block any kind of robots, then you need to use this kind of meta tag on your website or web page. Now the next question is that how do you find out if your web page uses the no index meta tag? Well, for this I mostly use this tool, which is a free tool, and it's called the SE Optimer. So I have already copied my page URL on which I have already implemented the noindex meta tag. So let's check it. So there you go. My page uses the noindex tag, and it says your page is using the noindex tag which prevents indexing. Okay, so this is the number one tool that you should be using to check your web pages if they uses or not the noindex meta tag, right? So this is basically the page on which I have implemented the noindex meta tag, and now I want to show you how you can implement the noindex meta tag, because sometimes you intentionally want that your page should use the noindex tag and it should not be crawled or indexed by the search engines. Okay, so I have already opened my page in the edit mode since I'm using the Rank Math SEO plugin. So when you scroll down, you see there some tabs under the Rank Math SEO. The first one is the journal and the second one is the advanced. So you need to click on advanced option, and then you see the robots metas. So there are a few things which you need to understand. The first one is to check mark the index box, and if you do this, it means any kind of search engines can crawl and index this page. And the most important one is that no index tag. So as you can see, I have already check mark the no index box, which means none of the search engines can crawl or index this page, right? So once you have check mark this no index box, then you simply need to click on update, right? So if I hover my mouse on this question mark, it says the no index tag prevents pages from being indexed and displayed in the search engine results pages. Okay, so the whole story is that using the no index tag on any web page of your website prevents the crawler not to index that page, and this is the sole purpose of the no index tag. So sometimes it's important to use the no index tag on your pages, and sometimes you have to remove these no index tags if you face any kind of indexing or crawlability issues within the Google Search Console. So for example, if a page you want to be appearing in the Google search results, then obviously you should not put a no index tag on this page. So but sometimes by mistake you put the no index tag on those pages, and resultantly that page is not being indexed by Google. So in that case you have to remove the no index meta tag, right? Right guys, so the next technical SEO element we have got is the robots.txt file. So let's see how Google describes the robots.txt file. A robots.txt file tells search engine crawlers which URLs the crawler can access on your site. This is used mainly to avoid overloading your site with requests. So to cut the long story short, robots.txt file is a way of telling the Google or any search engines which URLs should they crawl and which URLs should they avoid. So now basically a robots.txt file lives within the root directory of your website, just like this one. So as you can see, the URL, the clickd.com/the-robots.txt, and you can find out the robots file of any website just by putting the robots.txt after the main URL of their website. So there are a few things you need to understand, right? So as you can see, the first one we have got is the user agent, right? The user agent means you have to specify which bots are you basically indicating to. So for example, I have used the asterisk mark, which means I am telling or indicating any kind of search engine on the web, which means any kind of search engine can access this robots.txt file. Then I have set different directives, like the first one is the disallow directive and the second one is the allow directive, right? So the first one that I have blocked is that I'm telling all of the search engine crawlers not to visit the WordPress admin URL, but I have allowed all the bots from any search engines that they can crawl the WordPress admin ajax.php, right? So then I have put simply my website sitemap, which we will discuss in a moment, right? So now, for example, let's explore this a little bit more. So as you can see, this is the robots.txt file, right? So for example, I put it here Googlebot. Now it means that I'm indicating to only Google bots, or in other words, only Google bots can crawl my robots.txt file, right? So this is the main difference, and this is the thing you need to understand, right? So you simply don't need to play around with the robots.txt file. By default everything is set like this one, but in some cases you want specific crawls not to crawl your website. Then in that case you need to specify the name of that bot. So for example, just like I said, the Google bot, right? But if you don't have any of them to specify, then you simply put the asterisk mark, sorry, let me just remove this one, like this one. This means that any kind of bot can visit your robots.txt file, and where you can access the first one is to like I said, you simply put the /robots.txt file after the website address of any website. Second, you can find your robots.txt file within your root directory by visiting your DNS configuration settings. So the next one up is canonical URL. So let's see what canonical URL is and how you can use, and how Google uses canonical URL. So basically, a canonical URL is the URL of the page that Google thinks is most representative from a set of duplicate pages on your site. For example, if you have URLs for the same page, example.com dress is equal to 1 2 3 4, and then example.com dresses 1 2 3 4, Google chooses one as a canonical. The pages don't need to be absolutely identical. Minor changes in sorting or filtering of list pages don't make the page unique. For example, sorting by price, mostly on e-commerce website, or filtering by item color. So the canonical URL can be in different domain than a duplicate URL, meaning that using a canonical URL we can tell Google that which one is the preferred version if you have multiple pages, right, with the same or a little bit different URLs. So now let's dive deeper down into the canonical URL. So Google says if you have a single page that's accessible by multiple URLs, right, or different pages with similar content. This is the point you should keep in mind. For example, a page with both mobile and desktop version, Google sees these as duplicate versions of the same page, right? which means every different URL is a different page for Google. So Google will choose one URL as the canonical version and crawl that, and all other URLs will be considered duplicate URLs and crawled less often. Now here is the point. Why do you actually need to put a canonical URL if you have multiple versions of the same page? Google says if you don't explicitly tell Google which URL is canonical, Google will make the choice for you. Now, Google can find out which should be, the canonical URL on your website. But here is the thing, or you might consider them both of equal weight, which might lead to unwanted behavior, right? Google says if I choose the canonical URL for you, it will lead to unwanted behavior, which we can find out in the reasons to choose a canonical URL, which is a different article. So the whole story is that a canonical URL is used to tell Google which one is the preferred version if you have multiple pages with the same content, or most importantly, like Google said in the e-commerce websites, when you visit the product page or the subcategory page, and when you sort out the products by price, by color, or whatever, so every sorting action changes the URL on the same page. And that's why for e-commerce store owners it's important to properly use the canonical URL. So now the point is that how do you use the canonical URL on your website? Since I'm using the WordPress website, right, and in the WordPress I'm using the rank math SEO, and for now I really don't need to use the canonical URL because I don't have that problems like discussed in this article. But if I do need to provide a canonical URL, this is the place under the rank math SEO. So you simply need to click on the advanced tab. Then at the bottom of this tab you will see the canonical URL field. In this field you can provide the preferred URL or the version of the page that you want Google consider it as canonical URL. So if I hover my cursor on this question mark, it says the canonical URL informs search crawlers which page is the main page if you have double content. So that's simple. So the point is that if you are an e-commerce store owner, then you definitely need the canonical URL, especially for your product pages, subcategory pages, main category pages, where the users have the ability to sort out the products by price, availability, by color, etc. So the next one we have is the redirects. In other words, the 301 redirect. And let's see what is a 301 redirect and how you can use and how it can help you resolve most of the technical problems on your website. So first, let's see what Google says about the redirects. According to Google, redirecting URLs is the practice of resolving an existing URL to a different one, effectively telling your visitors and Google search that a page has a new location. Redirects are particularly useful in the following circumstances. So the first one is you have moved your site to a new domain and you want to make the transition as seamless as possible. So for example, if you have shifted your domain from abc.com to abcde.com, or from http from www.abc.com to https, or simply the point is that if you change the URL permanently, in that case you need permanent 301 redirect, right? So the second one is people access your site through several different URLs, and this is the main point, and of which I want to show you a demo as well in a moment. If, for example, your homepage can be reached in multiple ways, for instance, someone typing http example.com/home, then http homeexample.com or http www.example.com, it's a good idea to pick one of those URLs as your preferred destination and use redirects to send traffic from the other URLs to your preferred URL. And the third one, you're merging two websites and want to make sure that links to outdated URLs are redirected to the correct pages. You remove a page and you want to send users to a new page. This is also very important. So for example, if you have an old blog post and when you have updated its content, you have targeted some fresh keywords. So in that case, when you change the URL, in that case you have to put the permanent 301 redirect. So now let me quickly show you a demo of this. So as you can see, this is my client's website, and this website uses the HTTPS version rather than the www.thoughtyards.com. So if I access this website using this URL, since I have already implemented the 301 redirect, so it will redirect me to the HTTPS version. So let's see how it works. Alright, so it has already redirected me to the HTTPS version. And now let's find out how I implemented the 301 redirect and how they transferred me from www to HTTPS version. Let's just open this extension. So as you can see, these are basically the URL. In my case, I typed this kind of URL, and if someone types this kind of URL without S in the HTTP, it will redirect to this version of the URL. And finally, if someone uses the www in the URL, it will redirect all of the visitors from these two URLs to this kind of the URL, which is the HTTPS version, right? So as you can see, this is how you can use the redirects using or fixing most technical problems. So for example, if you have updated the URL of some of your blog posts and you just forget implementing the redirects, then when someone visits that URL, they may land on a 404 error page, and which just increases the bounce rate on your website. So that's why it's important to properly use the 301 redirects on your website. So using the WordPress rank math SEO plugin, you can easily redirect a page from one URL to another. So let me show you how it works. Under the rank math SEO plugin, when I click on advanced, then under the canonical URL, you will see the redirect option. If I just switch on this option, then I simply need to provide the destination URL, and then I also need to select the type of the redirect, whether it's the 301 permanent move, the 302 temporary move, the 307 temporary redirect. So these are different redirects which you can use as per your requirements. Since I'm not redirecting this URL, I just wanted to show you how you can do this. So that's very simple in the WordPress. Alright guys, so the next technical SEO element that we have got is the sitemaps. So let's see what Google says about the sitemaps, right? According to Google, a sitemap is a file where you provide information about the pages, videos, and other files on your site and the relationships between them. Search engines like Google read this file to crawl your site more efficiently. A sitemap tells Google which pages and files you think are important in your site, and it also provides valuable information about these files. So for example, when the page was last updated and any alternative language versions of the page. So you can use a sitemap to provide information about specific types of content on your pages, including video, images, news, content. For example, a sitemap video entry can specify the video running time, rating, and age appropriateness rating. A sitemap image entry can include the location of the images included in a page. A sitemap news entry can include the article, title, and publication date. Okay, now the next question is that, do you need a sitemap? Well, according to Google, if your site's pages are properly linked, Google can usually discover most of your site. Proper linking means that all pages that you deem important can be reached through some form of navigation, be that your site's menu or links that you placed on pages. Even so, a sitemap can improve the crawling of a larger or more complex sites or more specialized files. So the whole point is that yes, you definitely need a sitemap, right? And a sitemap generally tells or provides important information to Google search engines, and it tells about specific pages on your website, videos, images, and stuff like that. So basically this is a set of all the important informations that you want search engines should crawl, index, and they should appear within the search results, right? So that's why you need a sitemap. Now the question is that, how do you find out the sitemap? Basically, there are a few online tools which will help you to generate the XML sitemaps for your website. But if you are using the WordPress CMS, and like I said in this tutorial, using WordPress CMS, you can use plugins like the RankMath SEO or the Yoast SEO. These plugins generally generate the XML sitemaps for your website automatically. You simply need to turn on the settings. So if you want to find out the sitemap of your website, you simply need to put the /sitemap _ index.xml after your website address. So in my case, my agency website XML sitemap looks like this one. So as you can see, this XML sitemap index file contains 7 more sitemaps, right? Which is the post, page, the case studies, mega menus, category, video, local sitemap.xml. So what I simply need to do is to copy this URL and then go to the Google Search Console to add my XML sitemap to Google, so that Google can crawl my website's important pages, important blog posts, and the case studies that I want they should appear in the search results. So when I click on my website, so under sitemaps I can provide the URL. So I simply need to delete the root domain name as it already exists there. So I simply now need to click submit. So last time I submitted was on July 5th 2022. Now if I want to resubmit my XML sitemap, because I have new blog posts, I have created new pages on my website. So the rank math SEO automatically updates the XML sitemap. So what I need to do is to simply, you know, add it again. But if I do not add the XML sitemap again, still Google can find out the new pages and new blog posts using these old XML sitemaps. Just like I said, this rank math SEO automatically updates the XML sitemap. So this is the XML sitemap and how you can get your XML sitemap URL and how you can submit it in the Google search engine. Alright guys, so the next one up is the page speed or the website loading time. So what is the page speed? Well, the page speed is the amount of the time that it takes for a web page to load. A page's loading speed is determined by several different factors like the site's server, page file size, and image compression. Now the point here is that the faster your website loads, the better is going to be the bounce rate and the user experience as well. Along with this, Google will also reward your website by ranking it high in the search results. So now how do you find out the loading time or speed of your website? Well, for this I mostly use two tools. The first one is the Page Speed Insights, which is being offered by Google, and this is a free tool. And the second one is the gtmetrics.com. Okay, so first let's see how the Page Speed Insights work. Okay, so now the point here is that the suggestions or the recommended that are being provided by the Page Speed Insights may not be easier for you to implement by yourself, but for that you will need the help of a developer to actually implement those changes for you on your website. So basically this report runs for two different versions, like the mobile and the desktop version. Okay, now it just pulling up the data from the website. So in the meanwhile, let's go to the GTmetrix to run the report on that tool as well. Let me just copy the URL. So test your site. Okay, so our report is now ready. It says the desktop version has the 36 score and it's below average. Okay, so if it's green, which means your speed is between 90 and 100, and this is the great score if you can achieve. Okay, so now there are a few things like the first contentful paint, the speed index, largest contentful paint, right? So if we go deeper down, it tells about the opportunities, right? So opportunities are basically, it tells about where you can improve your website speed. So the first one is to reduce unused JavaScript, right? So if I click on this drop down menu, it says consider reducing or switching the number of the WordPress plugin, which means we are using plugins that basically causes the problem in the loading time. Okay, so now in the same way, if you just click on the drop down, it will show you where the problem is or how you can improve. So if I click on, it says the reduce initial server response time, which means I have to work on my DNS. And next we have got is to reduce the unused CSS. So for this it may say to use plugins. Consider reducing or switching the number of WordPress plugin loading unused CSS in your page. To identify plugins that are adding extraneous CSS, try running code coverage in the Chrome developer tools, which is a little bit advanced, but you can explore this for yourself. So then it says properly size images, serve images in the next generation formats, eliminate render blocking resources. So then it says the diagnostics. Ensure text remain visible during web font load. So these are basically things which your developers understand better than you. So what you simply need to do is to forward this report to your developer, and your developer is gonna implement all of these changes on your website. Okay, so this is how one way of using or finding out the speed time of your website. So now let's go to the GT metrics. So latest performance report for .com is the grade is F, I think, which is not a good one. Then the performance is 29%, structure is 76. So if you just hover your mouse on this question mark, it will tell you what is it. So then we have got the summary, the performance, structure, waterfall, video, history. Now top issues. The first one is the avoid enormous network payloads, reduce initial server response time, save static assets with an efficient cache policy, avoid unload event listeners. Okay, so now this also tells you about the plugins or the way how you can improve the loading time of your website. Okay, so your page content is broken down into the following, right? So if we just click on the performance, it says the first contentful paint, speed index. So these are again things which your developers understand better than you. So what you simply need to do is to run the report and provide that report to your developer, and your developer is gonna fix all of these technical problems that are related to the loading time of your website. Okay, so just to recap, we have discussed 6 different technical SEO elements in this video tutorial, and I try to pick the most important one. Like I said in the start of this tutorial, technical SEO is a very broad field, so we will try to cover the most basic and important technical SEO element. So just to recap, the first one was the no index meta tag, second one is the robots.txt file, then we have discovered the XML sitemap, and then the canonical URLs, and then the 301 redirects, and the last one was the page speed, I mean your website loading time. So this is how you can simply follow and improve your website technical health in order to gain maximum SEO benefits. So I hope this has been a super helpful tutorial, and in the next tutorial that will be published tomorrow, we will cover how you can do the keyword research, how you can pick the profitable keywords for your website, whether it's the e-commerce website, it's personal blog, or it's the service-based website. So I'm gonna break down everything, and I will tell you in detail about the keyword research and how do I do the keyword research for my own projects, for my own SEO clients. So thanks for watching, and thanks for your time. I will see you in the next one.